Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Seventh Podcast of Soulful Thoughts from Ireland. Each week I invite you to join with me as I bring new stories and reflections of my time here in Ireland and weaving them together with the times we are currently living in. As many in our world are returning and venturing into their outer lives again, I draw forth here both a personal encounter and an Irish myth that seems to speak to what we are or will be encountering. I have given this podcast the title of Mists of Fear and Lakes of Love. I parked my car at the trailhead. 2 other cars were there, parked somewhat haphazardly at awkward angles. With no tourists and few local people out and about, there was clearly no need of mindful parking in the small space provided. I set off down the track, passing sheep on rocky outcroppings, winding my way into this fjord-like lake, which is thought to have been formed by a glacier movement in the Ice Age. Immediately, I could feel the grandeur of the surrounding guardian mountains looking down upon me from their great height. They felt formidable, and I got the feeling they are hard taskmasters with little room for error on anyone's part if you so choose to climb them. I quickly decided the flat track below, winding along the lake, was quite sufficient for me today. Coming in the opposite direction was a mother and 2 daughters. As we approached one another, we each went to the far side of the wide track, giving as much room as possible to one another, with furtive glances and quick hellos, rushing by in our cautious and self-isolating mode that is still in operation. So very untypical of Ireland. Clearly I was not local, and so I also registered a glance of motherly concern. The question on everyone's mind: do they have the virus? Are they asymptomatic and a potential spreader? Quick, keep on walking. Or do I have it? Am I the one spreading it? Quick, keep on walking. Similar question, same solution. Continuing on, I was taking in the rugged beauty all around me. And when I turned the next corner, the full view of the lake and mountains were there before me. What an absolutely majestic sight. My mind simply went numb. There was nothing except sheer awe coursing through my body. What beauty contained behind a small village, with only a small hill to be seen from the road. It is here at this loch, this lake, that the children of Lair are said to have found their resting place. This is a long, complex myth, but to give you the overview, we have a king and queen of long ago who gave birth to 4 children. Unfortunately, during the latter birth, the queen died. In time, as was the custom, the king married the queen's sister. All was well for a time. However, the king was deeply attached to his children, and the new queen became jealous of them. And using magical powers, she turned the children into white swans. After doing so, she was visited by some measure of guilt, and then gifted them the ability to retain their human voices and the gift of making the sweetest music in the land. That is, music originating in the fairy kingdom, transporting all who heard it into the other realms and bringing a great sense of joy and peace. In time, the new queen's actions were discovered, as the children, swans, could talk and tell of what happened to them. Interesting that she was the cause of her own downfall, which of course, aren't we all? A mere ripple of doubt, or a shudder of guilt, permeating our soul, and we open the way for a whole new story to unfold. And so it was with the Queen, and her story unfolded in this way. She was brought before her husband's men of counsel, and she was asked, "What is the worst punishment you can think of?" She replied, "To be changed into an air demon." And so that is what happened. The magic she used upon others was now visited upon her. The children of Lair, as swans, it is told, found their way to GlenBeg Lake after a great storm at sea. They brought their sweet and haunting music to this land and brought much joy to the hearts of those who lived here. Perhaps they were also air angels. This GlenBeg Lake is exactly where I was. And no, on this day I did not see any swans here. But what I did encounter coming towards me now was an Irishman with his shillelagh. A shillelagh is an Irish walking stick that is also one's protector, and is said to guide you home if you get lost in the mountain mist, or perhaps more accurately, in the fairy mist. He greeted me from a distance, and with urgency in his voice. To start, I couldn't understand him, so thick was his Irish brogue. But then I heard, "You're not a woman from Cork, are ya?" I assured him I was not. Cork is where a cluster of the virus is strong. His face was filled with fear. He was afraid of me. He then asked me where I was from. I told him New Zealand, and he jumped back even further than the required 6 feet and said, "Oh, Jesus, even worse." Of course, he was thinking I had just gotten off a plane. I tried to assure him all was well since I had been here for a while. But did I really know that all was well? I quickly assessed it best not to reveal that I had actually flown in from New York. He may well run me into the deep, cold waters of the loch. We engaged in a little conversation, and his gaze dropped to my boots. Good leather, calf-high walking boots, waterproof and perfect for the local boggy areas. He got a strange glint in his eye and said rather suggestively, "I like a woman in boots, and rapidly took a giant step towards me. I jumped back and, putting my arms up, blocked him and told him to keep the 6-foot distance, saying, "Virus, virus, keep back." He stepped back a little. I felt afraid for the first time ever in all my trips to Ireland. There was now no one else around except he and I. I quickly walked in the other direction. Glancing back, I saw him still standing there, watching me. I felt the air demon all around me. The demon of fear. I kept walking, and eventually so did he. Later, of course, I realized he was not to be feared. He was simply a man of another time, expressing his admiration. And was I to be feared? Bringing myself back into calm, I realized how the demons are flying through our air, trying to infect all of us, trying to incite fear of each other, whether it be through thoughts of the second wave of the virus, lack of money or food, or the lack of future freedom. And yes, they are flying. But so also are the pure white swans, bringing the sweetness of their music, the music of compassion, the music of open-heartedness and generosity, the music of love. And I found it so very interesting that as this man took the step towards me, I claimed the virus as my protector. Where we have fear, we also need protection. What are we protecting ourselves with? Too much internet gazing, getting lost in distraction? Loveless and accusing speech? Dramatic outrage? It is interesting to see how false protection is also a demon of the air. So if we find ourselves getting lost in the mist of fear and false protection, may we reach for our shillelagh, our magical walking stick that will bring us back over the mountains, back home to our true resting place together, where we all belong, the loch or lake of love. Thank you for walking with me through these mists of time. Please do join me next week. Be well, be healthy, protect yourself in and through love. Shalom.